Hi, thanks for joining us on this edition of Vision, the show all about the College of Arts and Sciences. And on today's episode, we're talking all about the African American Studies program here at Mississippi State, which is a part of the College of Arts and Sciences. And we're welcoming back Dr. Don Schaefer. He was on our show about a year ago, so welcome back. We're so glad to have you again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's great to be back.
And you are the Interim Director.
That's correct.
For the African American Studies program. You also are a professor, and you had another title.
I am Presidential Scholars Mentor in the Judy and Bobby Shackles Honors College.
A mouthful. I'm glad I didn't
Yes,
say it, but
that is a
three,
mouthful.
yeah, three hefty titles, right? So last time we had you on the show, we talked about the 10-year anniversary of the program here at Mississippi State. So today I wanted to kind of talk about you a little bit before we get into your role as interim director.
Oh, okay.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, kind of your path to Mississippi State.
Sure. So you want me to wax anecdotal? I think I can do that. You know, at the risk of sounding a bit melodramatic, my path to Mississippi State started 30 years ago at 1518 West Pearl Street in Jackson, Mississippi. And as a kid, I was an avid reader. And that was in large part because of my mother, who was a librarian, and filled the house up with books. And these were the days before the internet. So everyone had encyclopedias. So they had these reference books in their house. And my mother was very keen that she wanted me to have different perspectives on hand. So there was a set of encyclopedias that were your standard New Age encyclopedia. And there was another set next to that that focused entirely on African American history. And as a 10, 11-year-old kid, you assume that everything that's in one set ought to be in the other. So I asked my mother once, I said, why do we need this separate set of encyclopedias focusing on African American history and culture? And all she said to me was, just read both and you'll find out. And it became clear to me over time that many of the figures in African American history and culture, folks like Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, better known figures were indeed featured in both. But right. Some of the lesser known figures, Fannie Lou Hamer, for instance, Marcus Garvey, some of the African American authors and writers, of the 19th century, for instance, like Francis W. Harper and Delaney, they were not mentioned. In the New Age Encyclopedia. So that taught me a valuable lesson as a child, that there's a big difference between perception and reality, and a big difference between, what we all recognize as our history and some of the forgotten voices and figures that are also part of that history. So that helped shape my perspective at a very young age, and it made me incredibly interested in African American culture and history because I wanted to know what else was I missing.
And obviously you want to teach that to other people, right?
Yes.
You teach Intro to African American Studies in the program, which is a minor. You can get a minor here at Mississippi State in that. With that class, I'm assuming that the passion that you just told that story with is how you teach that class. What do you hope that students who take that class learn, and take from you, really?
Sure. Well, the class is Intro to African American Studies, AAS 1063. It's a foundational course in our minor. Students are required to take that course. And it's a unique opportunity, I think, for students to both learn the history of the field of African American Studies. And it's a really interesting history. It's one that was fought for, certainly in tumultuous decade of the 1960s. And the first thing that I try to convey to students is that the students who really fought for African American Studies in the academy, these were students a lot like you. These were students who were very diverse, very diverse group of students. It was very much a multiracial, multi-ethnic coalition of students that helped to create the first recognized African American Studies program at a traditional white college university at San Francisco State College in 1968.
Wow.
So it's a wonderful history. It's also an opportunity, obviously, for students to think about things that perhaps they haven't had an opportunity to think about, those forgotten figures and voices that, I had the great opportunity and privilege to discover when I was a kid, but perhaps they haven't necessarily had the same opportunity, to discover those voices.
Okay, and so you have answered a couple more of my questions just about the importance of it being here at a land-grant institution. We were going to talk about that, but I think you really covered it there. You have a new role this year, Interim Director of the African American Studies program. I want to get to that, but we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be back with your answers to my questions about that, okay?
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you after this break.
Heard an echo down the well where my heart once hung. Hear my name ringing, ringing when I'm done. Hear my name ringing, hear it ringing. Hear my name ringing.
We all depend on accurate weather forecasts to plan our day. That's why Mississippi State University is teaching students to forecast the future using real-world news sets as classrooms, putting scientific discoveries in meteorology to the test, while honing on-air reporting skills real-time with local TV stations. And we do it so well that at any given moment across the country, 1 in 3 weather forecasts are being delivered by MSU-trained meteorologists who are helping people make crucial decisions that impact their safety, working to ensure business continuity, and in many cases, saving lives. Predicting the future? That's what we're preparing for every single day so that you can prepare for your day.
Welcome back. We're talking to Dr. Dawn Schaefer, who's Interim Director of the African American Studies program here at Mississippi State. So we want to talk about your new role this year as Interim Director. How has that changed your day-to-day life, and how are you engaging with students maybe in a different way?
The role of administrator, it is everything that I expected it to be, plus a few more perks that I didn't anticipate. One of the things that it allows me to do that I couldn't do as much as teaching faculty is to really take time to sit down one-on-one with students. So I advise students in the minor. So I have an opportunity to talk not just about the classes that they're taking in African American Studies, but how those classes and perhaps the minor fits into their major, and perhaps also fits into some of their professional goals as well.
That's awesome. And what is your professional goal in this role? You know, where do you want to see the program go in the next 10 years, right? We just had the 10-year anniversary last year. So, so what do you want to do? Where do you see it going?
Sure. That was a great transition. Obviously, I want to grow the program, and I know that's sort of a generic way of thinking about the kinds of things that you want to do, but specifically, I would like to increase some of the opportunities that our students have outside of the classroom to pursue research. One of the things that we focus on in African American Studies is the interdisciplinarity of courses and critical pursuits. So our curriculum is very much interdisciplinary. Students are required to take courses in both social sciences and humanities. So I want to try to develop a component that would allow students to present their research, to work with our faculty, in a collaborative fashion, to attend conferences. And the big goal that I have is to create a study abroad program that will allow students to go and take their research and their interests to places like Ghana and South Africa and Liberia and so forth.
What students do you typically see coming to the minor, I guess? What are their majors typically? So if a student was watching this and they're majoring in something that maybe would be complementary with African American studies, what kind of students do you see?
So we typically see students in either the humanities or the social sciences because much of our curriculum comes from both of those broad areas. But we also see students in some of the STEM fields. You know, I have students in biochemistry and engineering who are not just taking our classes, but are wanting to minor in African American studies as well. So, you know, we get students from a really wide swath of the university.
Yeah.
And that's really, I think that's really interesting, you know, to have those different perspectives, you know, in our classes.
So you are doing a fall speaker series.
That's right.
Correct? And you have a big one coming up here November 6th or 8th?
November 8th.
November 8th. Okay, can you talk about that speaker and how important that is?
Sure. So November 8th at Griffiths Hall, it's over in Yonners College at 6 o'clock in the evening. We are going to host Professor Vaughn Raspberry, who is a professor at Stanford University. And he's going to be talking about his newest book, Race in the Totalitarian Century. I always struggle to get that word out. It's a tongue twister. Race in the Totalitarian Century. And in it, Dr. Raspberry talks about the discourse and rhetoric around race and focuses on race as a social construct and the ways in which African American writers and folks like W.B. Du Bois, Richard Wright, and James Baldwin have responded to that racial narrative that has defined historically social relations in our country. It's a really ambitious book with a broad scope that has won a couple of awards, most notably the American Book Award.
Right, the American Book Award, that's a big one.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's a big speaker. Is that open to the public as well?
It is open to the public. It is a talk that I think will appeal to everyone. Obviously, you know, our students are really interested in hearing more from Dr. Raspberry. But I think everyone can benefit from it. It's a broad historical book, and I think that a lot of the issues that he's talking about are really prescient and relevant today.
Yeah, and in our community.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, well, wonderful information. We're looking forward to that speaker, and we're so glad you could come back on Vision this year to discuss your new role and all the exciting things going on. We're all out of time for today, but we'll see you on the next edition of Vision.